Launching and running a business isn't easy. I've been there and I get it. With the right guidance, you can avoid common pitfalls and build something incredible. I'm Amy Davies, a 3-time business owner, and I'm your new business big sister. Hello, Joel Silverstone.
Hello, big sister Amy Davies.
How are ya?
I'm doing great, thank you. And how are
Yeah.
you?
I don't know. I don't feel like you're committed to that answer.
Uh,
Like you usually have more energy.
I
Where is it?
yeah. Well, I think I'm going to give sort of my grandfather's answer, which is, it's good. Everything is good.
Well,
Can't
hopefully
complain.
after this,
Can't complain.
can't complain. Yeah, that's a good one. I
Yeah,
love that one.
yeah,
Can't complain.
yeah.
Well, hopefully after this episode, you're going to feel great. You're going to be ready to take on the world and you're going to know everything you need to do and not do on LinkedIn.
I am really looking forward to this because it is such a we talked about it in the previous episode, but it is an ongoing learning journey about you can keep going back and keep fixing it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you can. And last time we talked a lot about your actual profile and setting up your profile. So I want
Yeah.
to be clear that we're not just going to talk about maybe some of the things we'll touch on again, because a reminder is always good. But last time we talked more about setting up your profile. So what
Yeah.
should your picture look like? What should your background look like? How to use the features section, how to create your summary, those sorts of things. And today we're really going to get into the nitty gritty of, well, we're going to start, we'll call it do's and don'ts, but it's really don'ts and then do's.
Okay. All right. Don't first and then do. All right. Don't and do. Hey, I have a question for you, big sister.
Yes.
Do you remember your first LinkedIn profile? Like when was that?
A long time ago. So like over 20 years ago was when I set up my first LinkedIn profile.
All right,
And
so-
I was in England at the time.
Oh.
So actually, England, interestingly, and this is worth considering for listeners, is that the UK is not as advanced as North America when it comes to LinkedIn profile. Like not LinkedIn profiles, sorry, but usage, LinkedIn usage. We are much heavier users here in North America than they are in the UK.
What are they using, or they just don't go
No,
onto
they're
LinkedIn?
using LinkedIn.
Okay.
It's just hasn't been as highly adopted as I understand it in the UK. I'm sure if any listener has contradictory evidence to that,
Yeah.
please feel free to send it. Put it in the comments on
Right.
YouTube or
Right. Someone right now is typing and going, "I'm in the UK."
yeah, someone's like,
and
"Oh my
yeah,
gosh, this is."
I'm always on LinkedIn.
But
We're all on LinkedIn.
but it seems to have, as I understand it, not been as widely adopted. But anyway, I was back in the UK, a much early adopter of the LinkedIn platform.
Yeah.
And why? What was your question?
Well, that was my question was if you could go back to then, and understandably you were in the UK, but is there anything you would tell 20 years ago Amy Davis about your LinkedIn profile? Anything you would change?
Oh, you just want to know about my LinkedIn?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we could have a whole episode on the things I would go back and tell 20 years ago Amy Davies to change. Okay,
It's
but
not that long ago, but you've had
No,
mean,
you're right.
in 20 years you have accomplished a lot. You've
Right,
swerved and you've
right.
swayed and you've risen and
Yeah.
fallen and risen again. And
Well,
I
the
think that's a
thing
whole
that I would-
that's a whole other episode.
That's a whole episode. Yeah, maybe a bit of a
Yeah.
snoozer for some. I'd have to find ways to make it exciting. But I would have changed my profile picture. It was like probably just taken on an the old phones that weren't as good. The UK is far more advanced in cell phone technology, though, I will say that. But still, their cameras were not great. I can't, you know what, honestly, I can't even remember, but I just know the picture. It wasn't a professional photo. And I really think that, and I talked about it last episode, we should always have a professional looking photo, crisp, clean. Even if someone takes it on it shouldn't be a selfie unless that's something related to your whole brand image. But
Right.
Get a friend to take a really good photo with great lighting of you with your phone, if you have a really good camera on it, or get a professional photo. It doesn't cost much to get a professional photo. And I go see an amazing photographer. Her name's Peg McCarthy. If anyone wants to look her up, she's incredible. And I go to her studio and I get multiple pictures because, as entrepreneurs, this again, we're veering off topic, but as entrepreneurs, we do so many different things. We are going to different conferences, presenting. We might be running webinars. You might come on this podcast. It's nice to have a range of photos because on LinkedIn, we talked a bit about it last time, but if you keep using the same photo, even if it's for different events or if they have similar coloring, people aren't going to pick up that that's a new topic. It's a new post. They're going to think they've already seen that content. So it's really good for you to have multiple
Yeah.
pictures. And then I keep the same one for about 3 years on my LinkedIn. But if I were to go back in time 20 years ago, I would have changed my profile picture.
Were you eating fish and chips while you were with the picture? Is that what was going on?
Oh, right. No, it was just like, it was just not, the lighting wasn't good. And
Okay.
I should try to dig it up
Yeah.
and see. Yeah.
Yeah. As you say that, my first actor headshot, when I really didn't know anything, when I was going into acting, my first actor, I really wanted to show that I was unique. So I had a picture
Yes.
with me with a shovel.
Oh, oh my. That's actually
Just
scary.
well, there was like a shovel in the studio, and I was like, "Hey, this will be really
Oh my
funny." And
gosh.
I'm like sort of like a farming picture, sort of like Green Acres, where I'm
Yeah.
like leaning on the shovel, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and then yeah, that a casting person said, this is this
That's
is
a
not
kind of
good."
Goodfellas look. That's not you.
Well, it wasn't a shovel. Like I was I wasn't wearing a suit, and I had the shovel, and I had a cigarette dangling out of my mouth, and
Oh my gosh.
I was
You're
trying to
too
show
much. Well,
I was trying to show
now I'm always
humor.
going to think of you with a shovel. Thanks for putting that image in my head.
No, well, but this goes to your point about the LinkedIn profile. Like
Yeah,
you might think this is showing something, but it's very limited to, and it's very easy to be misinterpreted. So,
for
keep it
sure.
professional. Keep it professional.
For
Yeah.
sure. And you know what? Here I'm going to add another don't.
Mhm.
And maybe there are people that can get away with this. I see people who are actually quite good at this, but if you're not sure and you're not a comedian, don't try to be funny on LinkedIn. In social media in general, it can be very difficult to read text, and for someone, they're not putting out the expression in that text. And I've seen attempts at humor go terribly wrong on in written form on LinkedIn. So obviously every individual is different. Maybe I'm just not that funny, but what I've seen, it can backfire very, very easily. And I'm very careful with how I don't really try to be funny on LinkedIn because that's not really my brand anyway. I like to think I'm a little funny in real life, but I don't know that
You
that would
are.
translate onto that platform. Oh, thank you.
But it's conversational humor that you have versus some people are really good at being able to craft a story and put humor into the story in a
Yeah.
way. But
Hmm.
if that's not your brand, then yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I can be more quick-witted in person when I'm talking to people. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. It depends on the day, but I don't think that it really, for me, it doesn't translate in written form. So I would be very, very careful with using humor on LinkedIn. It can, like I said, backfire pretty easily.
We've talked about the headshot. We talked about humor. Yeah. What's like another for you? What's like a glaring don't? What's like top of mind when you think of that? A
Well,
don't.
one is, LinkedIn, we should be using it to connect with people, right?
Hmm.
But we shouldn't be using it to connect with just anyone. And by that, I mean, people try to build up their LinkedIn network and they just send out all of these invites to people randomly. And
Mm.
again, I want to be really honest here. Like, I have done that, Joel. in the past. It's not something I do now, and that's why I know it's a mistake. If you're connecting with anyone that you there's the pages where you have your network and people that you can easily connect with. Just because it's easy to connect doesn't mean
Yeah.
it's the right thing to do. So I would
Right.
say don't connect with just anyone, and that includes people who reach out to you. I am pretty open with connections, but sometimes you just know that someone is going to be just about to sell you a product or service that is not going to be of interest to you. You're not going to add value to that person's network. They are really looking for a certain thing. And so that
Hmm.
is going to be something you want to be careful of. The other thing to be careful of when people, so don't just reach out to anyone and try to connect with them, but also when you see people's profiles, there are a lot of fake profiles out there, a lot of fake recruiting that it's not real.
Okay.
And you can often, I get this gut reaction when I see
Hmm.
certain profiles, and I almost know that it's not a real person reaching out to me. And when I see, like, so I see, as an example, if it's a picture of a picture, and sometimes you can tell because the sides of the photo are cut off. I don't know if you've ever seen that come through, but it almost looks like someone's grabbed someone's passport and taken a photo of the picture, and the sides are kind of cut off and it doesn't fit in the
Okay.
whole circle.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Or just, I don't know. I don't know what it is. And it's like one of those things that I'm so, I spend a lot of time on that platform. So I kind
Yeah.
of know, I just have this instinctual reaction. And
Right.
sometimes just to test it, I'll connect with the person. And then sure enough, it's like, do you want a great salary working from home? Like, I've
Right.
already got that. Thank you. But then I actually, if that happens, I actually block that person. You can
Hmm.
also report it as a fake profile too.
Right.
Um,
So
so
tell us a little bit more about the don't reach out to just anyone. Because
yeah,
maybe what is the repercussion of that? Does that like what does that say about you if you're just reaching out to just anyone? Like you said you went through that experience yourself. That was something you went through
right.
of reaching out to just
Well, there's
anyone.
no like there's not an inherent risk to it. Like it's not
Okay.
like you're setting, but here's where it does cause you problems.
Okay.
If you have a specific audience, I'm going to use First 30 as an example. First 30's audience is primarily HR leaders. So if I'm connecting with people in marketing, for instance, I mean that might be good for what we're doing now. So, but I'm going to use the example. Pretend I don't have this podcast,
Okay.
and I'm not your new business big sister. If I am only Amy Davies, CEO of First 30, primarily I want to connect with HR professionals. If I start connecting, like I said, with people in marketing, with people in sales, with people in IT, because they're just like there, and LinkedIn has pushed them forward as people in my, easy to connect. I can do it in one press. Well,
Right.
when I start posting content that is geared towards my audience, which are HR professionals, those folks that are in IT, they're in marketing, that are in sales, it's not going to interest them.
Right.
So that's going to be a problem because now I'm not getting any engagement in my content. And we said last week, like, don't worry about metrics, vanity metrics, and that is true. But the problem is if you're not getting any reactions on anything, then you're not going to be put into like LinkedIn's magical algorithm. So even the people
Right.
you want to see it aren't going to see it. So I would be really specific about your audience. The other reason that it's difficult is, and we're going to talk about generating mailing lists in more episodes in the future, but when LinkedIn allows you to download your connections. And if you have a ton of connections that aren't relevant to your industry and you're trying to sort out your connections, there's any number of reasons to do that, which we can get into another day. You're going to have to filter through all of those other people because LinkedIn doesn't let you specify who you want to download in this export. Then you're
Okay.
going to have to go through all those connections. So that's kind of the consequence of connecting with
Mm,
people who aren't relevant. Some people are just in it for the numbers game. And I do
right.
think that that's a risk. And this is a really cool don't. One don't I would suggest is don't some people pay for reactions. And I'll be
Mm,
honest, I don't know exactly how this works, but I know that there are people doing that. So you pay a company and you get like you pay for a certain amount of reactions to each post
Okay.
you put up, let's say. Okay.
Hmm.
The problem with that is I know there's people in my network who have done that, and they'll get like 330 likes on a post within a day, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
then what happens is inevitably people stop paying for this engagement tool, whatever it is, and
Right.
then their likes go down to like 15 likes, right? It's not
Hmm.
bad getting 15 likes, but
Hmm.
now you went from getting over 300 in a day to 15 over a week on a similar post.
Right.
I now know that you were paying for likes, and now it feels dishonest. It feels like you've created this. I don't know how to. Do you know what I'm saying, Joel? It feels like there's something like, hey, this is inconsistent, and now I'm not sure whether to trust you.
Yeah, it's all about building trust, and you've completely lost trust by it seems very weird, and somebody might even look as to who these likes are, and it even seems like you said, it seems like fake profiles.
Right. Remember, and I want to say like LinkedIn, of course, isn't the only social media platform. It just happens to be great for B2B businesses. So it's the one that I in First 30 use the most. However, we have Instagram, we have TikTok, we have X. So we're going to talk about those, especially we're going to talk about Instagram and TikTok. I'm not the expert for that, to be quite honest. So I'll bring in experts. I know people. I know people who know people. No, but I know some people who've done really well on those platforms and
Okay.
built their business on those platforms. They are going to come in and talk to that. But the
Right.
other question that people often have is going a step further when you are connecting with someone. So Joel, I don't know you. I'm sending you well, people call it a friend request. I'm going to call it a
Yeah.
business request because I don't see
Yeah.
it as friends. And that's the other thing. One thing I had a friend a long time ago who she's amazing and she's an amazing business person. But the one thing that really struck me is she was big on Facebook because of the nature of the work that she did. And she said to me, I don't accept people on LinkedIn unless they're my friends in real life.
Okay.
And I'm like, I think you're using those platforms in the opposite way. So
Right.
start like accepting. And the other thing that's happened to me in the past, and I get, on the one hand I get it, on the other hand I'm like, I'm personally not going to work this hard. I'm at a point in my professional life where I don't need contacts, but maybe someone wrote something that interests me and I try to connect with them, and they'll write to
Right.
me and say, oh, I don't know you, I need to know everyone I'm connected with. I
Uh-huh.
understand that. It's not that I don't understand that. Or I've even gotten an automated message back from an account that says, I don't accept people I don't know. And here's how and it was like all these rules about who they connect with.
Okay.
There's a part of me that totally understands that. But then the other part of me is like, that is not great for your professional network.
Uh-huh.
Just because you're in a great situation right now doesn't mean 5-10 years from now, you're not going to need a bigger network. So if you're going to exclude a lot of people, then you might cause you issues later on. But then there's some
Right.
people who like the one person, and this was odd to me. I still see them. They come up in my feed because we have so many people in common. He was like, I don't want to connect with you unless we get to like we meet for coffee
That's
and
weird.
I want to know more about your business. And I was like, okay. And it's not that person was a legitimate person. We know people in common.
Okay.
In fact, some of their stuff just came up in my feed, but it kind of gave me like it struck me as odd to take it to that level.
Yeah.
Because most busy professionals don't have time to go and meet you for a coffee, right? So
No,
that was
and it's just a LinkedIn invite. It's just a connection. Like it's not like we're going to Aruba together, and I need to know everything. It's like if you don't think that Amy Davies is a worthwhile connection, then you drop it. Then
just
you yeah
decline.
decline.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can also unconnect with people later if
Yeah.
if sometimes like you can see that someone doesn't share your values later, like they
Mhm.
post things, and I've seen this quite recently, and I
Yes.
just disconnect, I just unconnect because I don't want someone being in my network whose integrity I can't trust.
That's
Because
right.
they are something, because someone might reach out one day and say, hey, I see you're connected with so and so. All right. So getting more strategic, this is something that comes up all the time. So the one thing, and we talked a little bit about it last time, but if you're connecting with someone, Joel, you and I both have services that, we want to sell. We're not
Sure.
we're not pretending not to have these things, but
No.
it's not all of who we are, and
Yeah.
we're the human being first, and then over time we understand that people need time and space and to get to know us a bit before they're going to work with us. So one of the things that people can do, and I said it last time, is they'll write a note to connect, and we're going to
Hmm.
talk about to or not to write the note to connect with someone in a second. But they'll write a note, and in that note, they're already selling their services. I can grow your sales by X amount every year.
Hmm.
Connect with me and blah blah blah, and then we'll grab a Zoom coffee. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you've just given me. I'm not connecting yes on this connection because you
Yeah.
already pitched me. We're strangers right now. And if you're telling me you can grow my sales, I don't even want to connect with you. So how are you going to grow my sales? Is this the approach you're going to take with my prospects? Not for
Hmm.
me, right? So don't give someone a job to do the minute they agree to your connection. So if you are writing a personalized note, which you can do, of course, you have to be aware that that person might not want to have a responsibility the minute they connect with you, and that actually might be a barrier to them connecting with you. The other
Right.
one I get a lot, Joel, is, hey, Amy, we share hundreds of connections in common.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they'll put those sales pitch in, but us sharing hundreds of connections in common isn't that unique,
No.
right? Like
No.
I have a lot of LinkedIn connections, Joel. I'm sure you have quite a few LinkedIn connections. That doesn't in and of itself make that a worthwhile connection for either of us, especially if I know that you have a service you want to sell to me. So
Yeah.
that's just something to keep in mind. And a lot of people say that when they're trying to connect with you. So you're not really going to stand out and differentiate yourself. But what
Hmm.
can you do instead? Because I'd like to give people solutions. I was going to do these as two separate episodes for a don'ts and then do's, but I've decided to combine them because I don't want people feeling like, okay, well, if I'm not going to do that, then what am I going to do?
Yeah. So
So
what can we do? Yeah.
yeah. So I think if you are, so I have a very big HR like network, right? So if I'm connecting with someone who is in HR, I don't think I have to explain why I'm connecting with them. They're going to
Mm.
see from my profile. And we might even know each other a little bit after all this time, right? So I don't write a note myself if it's someone who I'm making an HR connection with. So you and I, we met in person. Hopefully, like I certainly remembered you. Hopefully, you remembered me. So when we connected on LinkedIn, nobody needed to send a note. Like we know each other. But if you're connecting with someone and it's really not clear, so say
Yeah.
you're connecting with me because you listen to this podcast,
Right.
or yeah, you might want to say to me in the note, hey, Amy, I listened to your new business, Big Sister, would love to connect here. That's great because then I have context for you. And I
Hmm.
can be like, oh, yeah, thanks for listening or whatever it is, right? That's a nice connection.
Hmm.
However, I'm not a big fan of putting a note in if there's it's obvious why you're going to connect with someone. That's kind of it on the personalizations versus not personalized. Now, there's
Okay.
another psychological thing that I wanted to introduce here, and that is I think that if you're connecting with someone who should be your peer and it's very clear why you're connecting, like if I'm connecting with someone in HR, they know why I'm connecting with them. It's very obvious. I don't have to explain myself. I think that it makes me seem weaker in the relationship already. Like I'm the underdog in our relationship if I'm already trying to justify why I'm connecting with you.
Mm.
If it's so obvious. And so I put that out there. I know people are going to disagree with me, but that is my attitude
Mm.
towards it. And it has worked well for me.
Okay. Well, that's really helpful. I had a great someone reach out, like I didn't know them at all, and they had a great
Yeah.
note, which
Okay.
was something along the lines. I heard your podcast, or I saw one of your posts, and then they said, "I can't believe we've never connected before."
Oh, you know what? That is nice. I
Yeah.
like that, and I like that a lot. So I think that's a really good thing because they're pointing out something that they've engaged with you. And
That's
actually,
right.
Joel, why don't we give a shout out to your podcast?
Well, podcast is all about influencing and communication skills and leadership. And sure enough, it's called TFR. This feels right. And we have it's
Yeah.
all about getting communication skills tips that maybe you thought you didn't need until you listen to the episode, and you're like, oh boy. And we've got
Yeah.
some great guests who've been on it. And Amy, you've been a guest on
I
a
was going to
former
say I was
former
on your old podcast,
old
but I don't
podcast. Yeah.
remember getting an invite.
Yes, you're gonna be on. You're gonna be on. We're
That's
gonna
right.
we're gonna we're gonna we're gonna be talking about, how you use communication skills and leadership in everything that you do. But it is so important
Well,
because
you heard
this
it here first, folks. I'm going to
yeah,
be on This Feels Right podcast coming
that's
up
right.
soon.
I think and sometimes those personalized invites um
Yeah.
show to me grace and leadership when they do that, like as opposed to
Yeah.
pitching, when they just say happy to connect, look forward to connecting.
Yeah.
But instead of that common ground being we have common connections, when they might say something more in common, like I've listened to your podcast, I really like the episode where you were talking about do's and don'ts about LinkedIn, like this,
Yeah.
and I'd love to learn more. I look forward to connecting. Or look forward to
Right.
following your journey and look forward to connecting. And it's like, okay,
That's a good one.
they're showing an interest in you versus common connections. I don't know.
But here's the thing. I don't want this audience wasting their time trying to find out about every single prospect. This is going to sound
Hmm.
really brutal, but you will sell more over time the bigger your network is, right?
Hmm.
So we're going to talk about mailing lists in the future. You're going to sell more with a bigger mailing list. You're going to sell more with a bigger LinkedIn following and with more LinkedIn connections in your industry, okay? So if you're sitting going through, I want to connect with Joel Silverstone, so I'm going to learn about Joel. I'm going to send him a personalized note. That is not a good use of your time, in my humble opinion, and people might disagree with me, but that is my opinion. If it served me
That's
fairly
why
well.
big sister. That's why you're here. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wouldn't lament over this. I would go out there, find your people, connect with them. And if you have the right content, if you have the right job title, if you have the right profile background and all those great things, and you don't look like someone who's going to pitch to them the minute they hit accept, then I think you're in a really good spot. Go for it. Connect with as many people as you can in your specific industry. That is my advice, and that's what's worked for me. And if that's not your style, totally fine, but that will work better for you. I think we do lament
I
over
think.
things, which I did in the past. It did not serve
Uh-huh.
me well. When it comes to, once you've connected with someone, like I said, you don't want to send them like a weird note. Like I told you, I get these weird notes like, how
Yeah.
are you? How's your business? Tell me 3 business challenges you have. I'm like, I don't know, you're a
Right.
stranger. So keep in mind, we
Yeah.
are all still strangers. Like you said, Joel, you can send a note that says, hey, thanks for connecting. I'm really looking forward to following your content. Or if you've
Hmm.
noticed something they've done, you can say that. But again, it's like, is it worth your time to do that? The other thing is be really conscious of asking for people's time. People don't want to, generally speaking, connect with you for a Zoom chat the minute you meet. Especially they don't want to connect with people in person. That just takes way too long. So wait a little while. That's part of the nurturing, is going quiet for a little while, at least a couple weeks, until
Hmm.
you actually reach out and maybe introduce yourself or something. But then you have to really think through what that message is going to say. The other thing that happens on LinkedIn that's happened to me is, and I'm sure that it will have happened to members of our audience, is don't reach out to someone you don't know and ask them to refer your business.
Oh, that's
I get that
weird.
too with help me find a job. Oh, Joel,
What?
you can't
That's weird.
imagine how often, hey, Amy, I see you know such and such from this company, right?
Right.
From
Uh-huh.
Google, let's say.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to get in to give a pitch, blah, blah, blah. Can you make a warm introduction? I don't know you. As soon as I
Yeah.
introduce you, you're connected to my brand, right? So that you're going to have to work your own leads, and especially don't reaching out to other suppliers to ask them to share their network with you. That's going to be get complicated fast. And in order for me to make a referral, which I was fortunate enough to be able to do for you this week, Joel, because someone
Yes,
asked
thank
me
you.
for
Yes, yes.
communication skills, I always recommend good people I know whose work I
Yeah.
know or that I've worked with. Even for jobs, if I know someone and I like them, I'll only recommend them as a candidate for a role. I won't recommend them for the job. It's really important only to recommend people and organizations you know and trust. And even then, surprisingly, we can get that wrong too, because, how well do you really know someone? So just be careful with the references that you give for people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The other don't I would add, and I see this a lot, only post and never react to other people's posts. Or as an addition to that, post your content and then not reply to people's comments on your
Oh,
content.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
ignore them. That's a very, very fast way to disengage your network. Listen, we all have issues like with that. So I'll put up a post and like 3 or 4 days later, someone will comment on that post, but I've put up like 2 or 3 more posts.
Yeah.
So occasionally I'll miss, but you can go into LinkedIn, you can sort your comments by date, like by recency, and then you can look at the ones that maybe you haven't responded to. At the very least, give them a little thumbs up or a heart or something. You just can't
Yeah.
ignore people reacting. And
No.
actually, LinkedIn likes when you engage with other people's content.
That's a good point because it says a lot about you and your brand if you're because you're out in the public and someone took the
Yes.
time to write a comment and people could see
Yeah.
that you did not reply to that and you left them hanging and it's like, well, I don't want to do business with that person who's like doesn't reply, doesn't
Yeah.
acknowledge even a thumbs up or something. I
I
always find that
know.
very weird when someone took the time to reply to your post because that takes a lot of courage for someone to put themselves out there, to put a comment on there.
It
So,
can be it can be make you seem selfish, even if that's not
yeah.
how you meant it, if you're busy and you're not living on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But just try to go back, and even if it's on the weekend, just look through your posts and get back to people, because you'll lose engagement if you don't do that.
So Amy, I have a
Yeah.
I know you were going somewhere, but and maybe you can go into where you're going, but I do have a question about LinkedIn. I think, and this is where a lot of people struggle, is their about section. Should it be speaking of salesy, should it be salesy? Should it be personal? Should it be like, I've I've got 3 kids, I like hiking. Should it be about your
Yeah.
business? Like people don't know which way to go because sometimes people write really good ones and it seems personable without
Yeah.
seeming personal. Or it sounded like
So
they
I
explained right off the bat what they do, but it sounded salesy.
Yes. What I would recommend is go through other LinkedIn profiles and see what you like, what you enjoy
Mm,
reading, what speaks to you. Like, what are and obviously you're yourself and you want to be yourself. It's really hard to be two different people. I tried it in a past life, Joel. It didn't work very well.
okay.
But you want to be one consistent person, but you also might need a little bit of inspiration. So go and look at other people's LinkedIn profiles, see what works, see what doesn't. And then I would say, personally, I don't like to share too much about my personal life. However, some people do, and that might be part of their brand, and that is totally fine.
Right.
But I would think about professional. So if you're showing up in a workplace, what would you share and what would you not share? And that could be your measure for what you're going to share on LinkedIn as well. Keep in
Right.
mind that about doesn't, it's not like everyone gets notified that you've changed your about section. So you can put
Mhm.
whatever in there and people aren't going to notice for a while. I think starting with a catchy line helps. I'm okay, don't laugh, Joel. I can't even remember if this is up in my LinkedIn profile right now or not.
Okay.
But I start with the line and I still think I do. I get with capital GET, I get people. And I do.
Okay.
So that's my first line of my profile, my about. So I feel like that's something
Catchy.
that is attention
It's a
grab.
good
Yeah, it's
hook.
attention
Yeah.
grabbing. So think
Yeah.
about like what could you say that's not like that's not it's disarming and attention grabbing. So yeah.
Right.
So think about that. But there's I like when it's written in first person. That's what I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Don't write in third
Okay,
person,
that's
write in
good. So
first
first
person if there
person.
was
Okay,
one. Yeah.
right.
Okay, so
You
we're
got
going to
another
be
don't or
reacting
do?
to other people's
Yeah.
posts. We're going to be generous on LinkedIn. I would say I would recommend not sharing more than one post per day. I think it can clutter things up and people aren't seeing, it's up to you, but I don't think
Mm-hmm.
that's a great strategy for LinkedIn. I would say if you're an entrepreneur who has a B2B business and your audience is on LinkedIn, you should be posting at least 2 to 5 times a week. I don't think you have to post more than 5. I think, and I'm saying this and I'm like, oh, I don't always do this, but I should be, because the more I post, the better my business does, to be honest with you. I
Mm-hmm.
think no less than 3 times. You don't have to do more than 5, but I would really recommend 5 times a week, Monday through Friday. Know when your audience is online. I know my audience is usually around 8 o'clock is a good time to post, 8 a.m. Eastern time. So if you're in a
Mm-hmm.
Western time zone, you don't want to post at 8 a.m. your time. You want to schedule your post, which you can do. There's a little scheduling tool in LinkedIn, and you want to make sure that you're posting at 8 a.m. Eastern time, because if you're in like California, but your prospective clients are in New York, you want those people seeing that, and you're going to miss the
Right.
best window. But the things about LinkedIn are always changing. I personally find the best engagement is to be found between 8 and 9 a.m. when you post at that time. But your audience might be different, so keep in mind who your audience is, obviously. But if you can't disappear on LinkedIn either and then come back
Mhm.
and be this, like, you might get one post that gets a lot of attention if you put a picture of yourself up or something, but you should be posting regularly. People will see that. Don't disappear for weeks. I know it's hard because we run out of energy. Joel, you and
Mhm.
I are both pretty creative people. So you know what that's like from a mood and energy perspective. It's like a roller coaster, not a
Right.
straight line. Some days we're inspired, some days we're not. If you're like Joel and I'm just making a huge assumption there, Joel,
Mhm.
about you, but
You
we
get
know
you
each other
get
well
people,
enough.
so
Yeah, I better be right. You're gonna tell me later. But if you're that kind of person, then you can schedule multiple posts in a
Mm.
week, right? So, or sorry, there's a scheduling tool on LinkedIn. You can use it. It's got a little clock. It appears when you hit post, start writing in your post, you'll see this little clock. I believe it's in the right-hand corner at the bottom. Push on that and you can schedule your posts. So if you're feeling really creative one day, you can write 5 posts and you can put them all up and you're done for the week. But don't just disappear. And this is the last one I'm going to share.
Okay.
Two. I'm going to share two, and they're pretty quick. But don't send acquaintances or even people you know well, unless you've agreed to. Sometimes people will send me posts to reshare of theirs, and
Uh-huh.
I'm like, oh, I don't know what to say when they do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if you send me a post, Joel, if we've talked about it and you say, hey, Amy, I'm writing this post, it's probably relevant to your audience and I'd really like it to get some traction, I want you to succeed. I actually do like to help my network. But
Mhm.
that's a bridge too far for me to send me a post and say, hey, please share this with your network.
Right.
Even though I want to help you, and then I don't even respond at all because I feel like I want to support you, but this is not
Yeah.
relevant to my audience, number one. And number two, I curate my LinkedIn content and I can't just throw something out there that might not fit with what I've got going on.
Right.
Is that mean? Am I being mean, Joel?
No, if someone's asking you to reshare a post about fish and chips, is it high in
Yeah.
cholesterol? And it's like, what does that have to do with First 30 or your
Exactly.
new business Big Sister? This
Yeah.
is not wrong show, wrong person.
Yeah.
Yeah, or is the same thing. They say I wrote this post about fish and chips being high in cholesterol. Can you
Yeah.
yeah can you please comment on it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Sure.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, like, you put up some really good posts, Joel, about, because you're a very active person. You're a very fit, active
Right.
person, right? And I love those posts. I love seeing those posts. I like those posts, but I have an approach that I don't like to tell people that to work out. I actually saw a post today. It's like, if I have 45 minutes as a single mom and a da da da, and I was like, wow,
Right.
you
Yeah.
have 45 minutes in your day to work out. And I'm like, no, some people don't like working out. They don't want to work out. They don't have to work out. It's your body, your choice. And I'm
Hmm.
not going to preach. And you know what? You're hearing me get like excited about this because I used to be that person, and I don't like that. I don't like that I was that person. Movement is good. That's what I always think. Movement is good, but I'm never want, and people want me to share posts about health and wellness. I personally see that as a very personal thing. And it's just not something that I'm an expert in, and I'm not going to share it with that type of content with people. And I've been asked to share that type of content in the past too. It's just
Right.
not for me. I'm not going to judge you for doing it, but it's just not for me because I know what it feels like people are in certain situations where they can't work out, or they just, like I said, they just don't want to, right?
Yeah.
And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And I just don't want to add to the problem that I perceive is out
It's
there.
it's it's not your narrative. You know, you were talking a lot in the
It's
last
not
episode
my narrative.
about mixing up your LinkedIn posts and sometimes having a narrative, and that's not, if you're gonna have a narrative, that is not your narrative. And so yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so you talk about the things you want to talk about, and that again,
Right.
so support your brand. And if talking about health and wellness, maybe there's an audience out there, but it's not what you want to talk about, and it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes total sense. That's a really great observation. Don't feel pressured to reshare your friend or acquaintance post that has nothing to do with you, and don't feel pressured to maybe jump on the bandwagon that all of a sudden everyone's talking about mindfulness or whatever, or eating well or exercise, and you feel you need to write a post about it when it's not getting you it's not getting you closer to who your audience is or what your brand is.
Yeah, and it's just a personal choice for me, and I feel like there's so much like body shaming going on out there.
Uh,
I don't believe in that. I think we I'm in all shapes and sizes, and
mm-hmm.
there's like we all, like I always say, every kid should have the opportunity to feel cool. Like every
Oh,
kid, I've.
well, I'm still waiting for that
Yeah.
moment.
I know, me too.
I'm still
But
waiting
I
to go,
think
hey. But even the Fonz, like like Henry Winkler, you would never cast him
yeah.
in a million years to be the Fonz, and he was surprised that he did that. He's a great, great actor and everything, but
Yeah.
yeah, like you're right. There's all this moments about feeling cool, but at the heart of it, we're all who we are, basically.
Right. And like as I was gonna say, I want every kid to have the opportunity to feel cool,
Yeah,
and I want every single person to feel good in the body they're in. Like I
yeah.
really do. And I just don't want to contribute to what I see as a problem out there.
Hmm.
So like totally veering off LinkedIn.
Hmm. Yeah.
Let's bring it back, Amy.
Yeah.
Okay,
Tell
this
me
is
more,
the
Amy.
yes, we could have this conversation later. Okay, so the last one I'm going to talk about today is I really think this is a big, big don't, and I have people I really like, Joel, that do this to me, and I don't think they appreciate the issues that it brings up for an entrepreneur trying to use LinkedIn as a marketing tool,
Hmm.
right? Like I'm using it for connections. Listen, I have made more actual real life friends in real life, like from LinkedIn, than I can count.
Mm.
Like we met on LinkedIn, I connected with them, they connected with me. We have been friends for years in real life, and that was from a connection on LinkedIn. So, I don't just use LinkedIn as a way to build my business. It has added so much value to my life, but one thing that I do is I do use it as a marketing tool as well as everything else that I've described. And when people arbitrarily tag me in a post,
Mm.
it actually affects the content that I've curated to put up on LinkedIn, because it takes that content out of the rotation and puts the content that they've tagged me in into my flow of
Right.
content.
Right.
And it's a really hard conversation to have with someone. And there's people who I really like and respect that do that to me, but they don't tag me to say thank you for something, or Amy was in this presentation, or blah, blah, blah. That's great if you're tagging someone and there's a purpose for you to tag them. But if you're just tagging them to add them to, or to get their eyes on your post, or
Yeah.
to promote your own things,
Yeah.
that is a huge faux pas. And it can get awkward. Like, obviously, there's people I don't tell because I really like them. I don't think they mean to do what they're doing, but it
Right.
is awkward. And sometimes I have to untag myself, and then people can see you've untagged yourself because they can see that your
Oh,
name
good
on
for
the
you.
post goes from blue to black. So if you notice that,
Right.
there was people, Joel, I can't even tell you, there was people who were doing that to me all the time. And a couple of them I had to disconnect with because it was
Hmm.
just
For
way
sure.
too much.
It's self-promotion. It's not respectful to you to be tagging you in their fish and chips or high in cholesterol post. It's
Yeah.
like what?
And I would never do that
Yeah.
to someone
Yeah.
else, And again, it's a mistake that I made in the past. So I will say that I wouldn't do it now. I
Hmm.
made that mistake, so I empathize with that mistake.
Sure.
But it is a mistake, and I don't think it's going to help your brand. And it's certainly not going to help your connection with the people you're tagging without any good reason to tag them other than to get more reach for your content.
I think a do on that is and you said before, do tag them when you are, hey, I just saw Amy speak at this conference, or I just read Amy's book, and they didn't tag you properly. They just wrote your name, but they didn't tag you. So and that could be like you make sure, so do make sure that when you do tag them, you are tagging them, that it went through, that it was blue, not black. And that it
Right.
was for
Yeah, that's a
something
really good point. Yeah.
that you're recognizing something, you're showing appreciation for them in something that they did.
Right. And if if they're like, even if it's a minor part hero of your post, then yes,
Hmm.
absolutely tag them. Everyone loves praise and to be
Yeah.
recognized. Like, people love that. But yeah, that's a really good point, Joel. Thank you for pointing out the positive. Yes, that's something you should absolutely do. And that's part of the generosity we talked about last time. Being
Yeah.
generous on LinkedIn is, it will help your brand. I heard once, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but if you give someone a compliment, that compliment, like, that bounces back to you. It's like a boomerang effect it has psychologically for people. So if I say, hey, Joel, you're looking great today, or like, I
Mhm.
love your outfit, then it's like that positivity you generate
Right.
bounces back off of them onto you, and they actually see you in the same kind of light that you've pointed out about them. Or I don't know the
Makes sense.
exact
No, it makes total sense. It makes total sense. It's
yeah.
it's it's the same thing. Like if someone's talking a lot and you're just listening, and then afterwards they go, "Oh, Amy, I really like Amy," and Amy maybe didn't say anything; she was just listening. But that's the same thing. It was like, "Oh, Amy's such an interesting person." It's like
Yeah,
she never said
yes.
anything, but she was listening.
we
You were
all
listening.
benefit
Yeah,
we all benefit from the halo effect,
the halo
right, of
effect. There
that.
we go.
Yeah.
Do you have? So, are we ready for our big sister bonus?
Yeah. Yes, we are. Oh, you're not going to do like a big sister bonus intro or anything?
Okay, yeah. And now,
Yeah,
without further
get the
ado,
energy going. Get the
yeah, without
energy.
further ado, you've read about it, you've seen it, you've listened to it, you've watched it. Now, live, do you have, or what is your big sister, your new business, big sister bonus, your new business,
We're
big
gonna
sister bonus?
we have to work on that one
Yeah.
a little.
Yeah. Well, hopefully
But
there's
good job,
music with
good
it.
job,
Yeah, hopefully the
good
music with
try.
Jarbo. Yeah,
We need music. We need
yeah,
music. We'll
yeah.
get. So I might have mentioned before, but Story for produces this podcast, and they do such an amazing job. So maybe they'll come up with a little intro to the Big Sister bonus.
Right.
Joel, we might have to borrow your voice for future episodes if we
Eh,
have
just have
other guests on the
a
show.
canned intro. Yeah. And now it's time for
Yes,
your
yeah.
new business big sister bonus.
See, good job.
Yeah.
Good job. That sounded excellent.
Hmm.
Okay, so the bonus today is, when we talk about don'ts, I would say don't be reactive. on LinkedIn or in social media in general. I find this is a good rule of thumb, and I'm sure a lot of people are nodding their head.
Mm,
We've all been that person that's been reactive, myself included. It does not help. It's just worth reflecting and taking a little time. If something really upsets you that you see on LinkedIn, and maybe for very good reason. Maybe it was a terrible thing that someone said in a post, something that
mm,
is highly offensive. Listen, I'm not saying, because there's so much of that right now, Joel. I 100% understand why people feel that way. You just take some time. I'm not saying don't react. I'm just saying give yourself like a couple hours to think about whether it is worth reacting, and
yeah.
maybe don't just pull the trigger, because you might regret what you say if you put something up there that's reactive. So don't be reactive, but do take some time to think about. And I'm going to add to this one. I'm going to do a bonus. One of the things, there's a lot in the political world going on right now. I have very strong opinions about it. Maybe you do too, Joel. I don't know, but I'm not sure, and I know that people might react to this, and I totally understand why. I'm not sure LinkedIn is the best place for
Mm,
politicking and
yeah.
sharing political opinions. I'm not saying there's not a forum for that. I think it's important to be politically active. I'm just not sure, because I see it once in a while on LinkedIn and I don't like it no matter what it is,
Hmm.
because it's just not like that. I'm going there for a professional purpose, and it's
Yeah,
not where, there's a lot of other platforms for that. I'm just not sure it's the right place. If you
I
disagree
agree
with
with you.
me, I understand
Hmm.
that. I totally understand it. It's just my personal perspective is it's not where I want to see that news. Because I can go and look for that elsewhere.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you. And I think we've come full circle in this episode where we talked about if you're not funny, don't use humor, and the same thing about don't be reactive.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Yeah.
that sort of brings us full circle in this episode. My takeaway from this is and I think this was interesting for a lot of people, which is you don't necessarily always have to write that note to that person for that connection. If it's assumptive, like we're both in HR, I can easily just connect. It's clear why we're connecting. We're in the same field. I don't have to write, "Hey, we're in the same field. Let's connect." I think that's a big relief for a lot of people who would be hesitant to reach out and connect with someone, thinking they have to write a note.
Yeah, totally. My dad has the best saying, Joel. He says, and this should apply to all of our notes on LinkedIn or otherwise. He has these Larryisms, and one of them is, "Why say boo hoo when boo will do?"
Uh,
So that is my parting piece of advice to my wonderful entrepreneur network. Thank you, Joel, so much.
Amy, always.
Joel, I hear such great things about him because, as I've said before, I get the opportunity to recommend his services all the time. You're a great communicator. You do a ton of work in presentation and communications training. And if you know organizations that are looking for that type of thing, by all means, look Joel Silverstone up because he is awesome. And I also want to say thank you to our sponsors, Storyfora, who do an amazing job of producing this podcast. And they are so easy to work with. And you just have to look at the show on YouTube. Please subscribe, by the way, if you happen to be on YouTube, and rate. Give us what can you do? What's the top score on podcast ratings, Joel? Is it 4 or
5
5?
stars.
Whatever
5
the
stars.
top score
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
we love your ratings. So please rate the show, share the show if you think it will help, and connect with Joel or I on LinkedIn. Joel, anywhere else people should find you?
Well, since we keep talking about LinkedIn, let's keep it simple and just connect with me on LinkedIn. And Amy, thank you
Yeah.
so much for all the praise, and I'm really loving getting to know you more and getting all the insights and expertise that you have from all those all of your experience and training that's really brought us from the HR world, but the professional world, the business world. Great tips. I'm really appreciating all this.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I hope it helps people because, social media can be sometimes it can feel like a chore, and sometimes it can be like, I don't know if what I'm doing is right or wrong. And if you're having those kinds of conversations with yourself, you're not alone. We're all having that. It's a complicated world and things are changing all the time, but we're here to empathize. We're here to share information and hopefully help along the way. Thank you so much again for everyone who's listening, and have a great rest of your day.